back to Gamescom After Dark. I'm here with Joel, who's going to talk to me about Close to the Sun. But first, if you have any questions about Close to the Sun, make sure to tag us in Twitter, including the hashtag #AfterDark. And if we pick your question, then you'll have a chance to win a brand new on a phone. And I really wish I could enter, but I can't because I'm here talking about Close to the Sun. Yeah. So you have some great footage for us. Let's just jump straight in with it. Cool. Chapter 1, The Borders of Hermes. Yeah. So first off, give me a quick intro to Close to the Sun.
So Close to the Sun, we call it a horror adventure, primarily because we want to scare you, but we also want to provide you with good story, good calm spaces where you can explore, you can dive into the lore, and then slowly we increase tension, we increase anxiety, and then we hit off with some good jump scares and some good chase sequences that will, you either run or you die.
So how do you manage to keep the tension high then? How do you manage to keep players on their toes?
Through really good sound design and lighting. A lot of horror atmosphere comes from just hiding information and then just drip feeding it slowly, bit by bit. So that's our primary tool, so to speak.
Yeah. So a big part of the mystery in Close to the Sun is obviously the ship. You're on it trying to find your sister. What exactly has gone on the ship to make you hunt her down?
So in Close to the Sun, we have this alternate history deal. We're going back 120, 130 years in time to the time of Nikola Tesla. In our version of history, Nikola Tesla had massive success, much more than he had in real life. So he built this giant ship, attracting scientists from all over the world to try to enhance humanity's capabilities when it comes to technology and the utility of electricity, first and foremost. So this massive ship is our canvas. That's where we're painting our story and our adventure.
So obviously the inevitable comparison is Bioshock.
Yeah.
What would you say to people who say that it looks quite a lot like that game?
Well, yeah, we get that a lot. And I mean, there's no denying we're fans of Bioshock just like the rest of the universe. Bioshock is not necessarily what we set off as an inspiration right from the get-go, but the art style of Art Nouveau, Art Deco was really popular back in the day, so we just kind of slid into that by accident. But we take it as a compliment that we have achieved our art direction goal competently when people associate us with Bioshock. We want to stress, though, that we don't have any direct combat elements like you would have in Bioshock with gunplay and that type of thing. We're more doing that you either think on your feet, run really fast, or you end up dying.
I guess one of the big threats on the ship is this quarantine, which we're now seeing on screen.
Yeah.
What exactly went on to make that an issue?
Well, I don't want to get too deep, too far ahead of myself.
Yeah, don't spoil it for us.
No, exactly. But you play as Rose Archer, and your sister happens to be one of the more prominent scientists aboard the Helios. She has sent us a letter asking that we come aboard, but as we come aboard, something has gone terribly wrong. So we need to investigate and try to reach our sister.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that there's not a lot of combat in this. So
True.
What do you have instead?
We want to take you on this kind of roller coaster ride. Kind of what I mentioned earlier, that we want to provide you with some locations where you're free to explore and dive into the lore if you're really interested in that type of thing. And then we slowly increase tension and some anxiety, followed by some action sequences where you're going to need to think on your feet or end up on the floor.
Yeah, well, that's not what anyone wants, really.
No.
So what kind of other inspirations have you had for Close to the Sun, then?
Initially, we were thinking a lot about Soma, Outlast, some Layers of Fear. Those were our initial kind of posts and pillars that we wanted to mimic and get close to. But we also wanted to do our own thing. So that's why we kind of slid into this adventure horror thing. We want to appeal to a wider audience than just the horror players. We want to be able to provide a good narrative and good problem solving along the way as well. So even people who not necessarily are interested in horror games should be able to find something that's really exciting in Close to the Sun as well.
Yeah, personally I'm a massive wimp when it comes to horror games.
Me
so
too.
It's a good thing that there's not that many enemies. So earlier we just saw that Tesla was saying one of Edison's spies, I presume.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Well, part of this historical context, the rivalry historically between Tesla and Edison is still alive and well here in Close to the Sun. Due to Tesla's massive success, Edison has to catch up. So you have Wardenclyffe being Tesla's main company, distributing and providing electricity throughout the globe. And you have Edison's General Electric trying to compete and infiltrate this massive ship complex to steal secrets, to try to understand what Tesla is up to, and in some cases sabotage when he can.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like Tesla's right to be paranoid.
He is.
Yeah.
There have been multiple incidents here in this beginning sequence, where in the dock area where you have lots of security, lots of people under investigation that are suspected spies.
Yeah. So what do you think will surprise players most about Close to the Sun?
Hopefully that a small team, we're a small indie studio in Rome, but we've managed to hit a quality bar that we're pretty content with internally. We're just working to make sure that we can maintain that quality bar throughout your entire experience. So it's a really fluid and a good player experience. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we can impress them by the quality of our product from such a small studio as ourselves.
Yeah, I gotta just ask, has Tesla really just made a statue of himself in the middle of that pavilion?
That he has.
Okay, cool. Impressive confidence.
Yeah,
confidence.
Our Nikola Tesla has a little bit more charisma, a little bit more spunk.
Spunk. Awesome.
So,
now, oh god, this scene makes me so nervous, I'm scared something's going to come jumping out. When we saw Rose in the lift earlier, something darted across the screen just before her. That looked like a person.
Indeed.
Good person, bad person?
There's grey areas. There are people who will want to survive, but will, do nasty things in order to secure their own survival. Mm-hmm. Rose is not alone on the ship. They're naturally her sister that she's trying to rescue, but also other characters, Nikola Tesla, of course, included, that are primary characters that we will feature throughout the game.
Yeah, it looks like they all had masks on in that scene we just saw.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
That was part of an annual Masquerade Ball that occurs aboard the Helios every year, where new recruits and old seasoned scientists get together. So that was a Masquerade Ball from a previous point in time. Part of the technologies and science that they've been working on aboard the Helios has to do with manipulating electricity through time. Mm-hmm.
And it didn't go too well by the looks of it, considering this machine looks like it's definitely messed up in some way or another.
It has seen better days.
For sure. So what kind of tone did you want to go overall for this? Is this kind of mournful because of the technology that's been lost, or more of a tension atmosphere?
We want to do a mix of both. We're telling a hopefully really compelling story that will hit some emotional notes that you're not necessarily expecting from a horror game. But that said, naturally, this is a horror game, and we're aiming to scare you every once in a while as well. So hopefully we can provide a mixed bag where we're providing both emotional content but also very scary content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Soma recently had a safe mode. I know you mentioned Soma as one of your inspirations. Did that affect your development of Close to the Sun at all?
No, not really. We look at Soma with envy due to mostly their long development time. We're on a slightly tighter schedule, so we try to remain focused on exactly what it is we want to achieve, and try to hit those notes instead.
Yeah. So we're just about to see a section where Rose has to complete a puzzle. Are puzzles your main way of interacting with this world?
There are environmental obstacles, like we can see here, electrical Tesla coil that is malfunctioning, wherein you're going to need to disable it, overload it, or simply find your way around it. Interacting with the world in these ways are places where we want the player to take a breath, solve a problem, and not have to worry about things chasing you around the corner. So we try to pace the moments throughout your adventure aboard the Helios.
So breathing space is very important for you then, creating this game?
Yeah, I mean, we are really content with the lore that we have, so we want to be able to present that and give the player time to dive into that if they are interested in it.
Yeah.
And if they're not, then they can simply solve the problem and be on their expedient way.
So we actually have some questions from Twitter now. One by Erin Black, who asks, how did you come up with the concept and backstory for Close to the Sun?
That's a really good question. We have our boss, Carlo, who's a really horror fanatic. He's been watching tons of movies and so on throughout his life. So he provided a good starting point. And then once we had the idea of a large ship out at sea and the time period that we wanted to place it in, Nikola Tesla came naturally into the picture, and it just kind of flourished from there. But we had many good long discussions early on where we were brainstorming, going back and forth on various issues. But this is what we settled on, and we're really happy that we did.
Yeah, it certainly looks like one hell of a good game. My eyes just want to drink in all the deliciousness from here. We've got another question from Twitter, from Tasha Sells, who asks what the silliest thing you're scared of is.
I would have to say, I'm not sure that it necessarily is silly, but cockroaches freak me out.
Oh man, you're not alone there.
And it just so happens that we placed a lot of cockroaches aboard the Helios to crawl on the walls and
Lovely.
Yeah. And it turns out that they made the jump from the Helios into our office in Rome.
Oh no, what?
So,
real ones?
Real
Obviously
ones.
real ones, not toys or
Rather
anything.
large ones too. So we've nuked our office 4 times trying to get rid of them, but they won't die.
So you're having a great time in your office.
Yeah.
You're so happy.
Indeed,
yeah.
indeed.
Brilliant.
But it's good references.
It's constant inspiration for iteration of the game. That's
exactly.
what it is, definitely, yeah.
We've been toying about naming them and giving them their own places aboard the Helios.
You don't want to humanize them, because then you can't squish them. And you want to squish them.
That's true.
So, because I may have already seen this BRoll before, I know that when she opens the door, she's going to be faced with something that's not altogether pleasant. So, how have you tried to keep the horror at a manageable level in Close to the Sun?
Well, manageable level is very subjective. We go overboard when we feel that it is right. So this particular room is what we would define as overboard. But it serves a narrative purpose. It's part of the universe that we've built, and the story of this room will be related to events later on in the adventure. So it's never gore for gore's sake. It's always for a grander narrative.
For a purpose, yeah. So when you resort people to shaking in their seats because they're too scared, at least it's for a good purpose, right?
For a good story.
Yeah.
At least that's what we tell ourselves.
That's what you tell yourselves.
Yeah.
That's what you can. That lets you sleep at night. That's good. That's perfect. Great. Thanks for talking me through Close to the Sun.
No problem.
I'm equal parts terrified, and I really just want to go walk around the ship. So you've done your job.
Thank
well
you.
done. Nice.
Awesome.